This is John Balick for Ironman Magazine. This morning I have the pleasure of sitting with Bill Seno outside on his lovely patio to get a kind of the highlights of his career within bodybuilding and how he got started. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, John.
It's a pleasure to be here. And just before we went live here, you started to talk about the weights and their attraction to young boys and young boys' attraction to what weights can do.
Sure, because it's just a natural thing, you know. Boys want to be as masculine as they can, and muscles seem to be a draw. And in the old days, and I mean the real old days, the only thing I remember was on the back of a comic book was Angelo Siciliano, which was Charles Atlas.
Correct.
And you know, he used to have the pose and saying, you know, if you're this skinny guy, you know, and somebody's kicking sand in your face at the beach, you know, you can get out of that and be like this. So,
well, how old were you when you first noticed that, probably?
I was 11.
11.
Yeah, and because I read comic books all the time. I was a very avid comic book reader. Mm-hmm. And on the back there was always this. So I sent in for this thing, you know, which was kind of unlike me, but I sent in for it, and all I got was this booklet. It said, read this for 15 minutes a day, and you know, and you will improve. So I started reading it. I was an 11-year-old kid, didn't know a thing. I started reading this, and I'd run and I'd look in the mirror after reading the gosh darn thing, you know, and I'd say, well, I don't see anything yet, so I'd go back and read some more.
The contents of this was?
Well,
it was mental preparation?
I think what it was, I was too young to realize that there was a process. Mm-hmm. But I think it was telling me something about a process that I was supposed to go through, but I didn't understand it. So I kept doing that, running back and forth to the mirror, and then I'd say, this isn't working, and I'd junk the thing, you know. But I didn't touch anything. I had nothing to do with that. Because, remember, in the old days, football coaches and other coaches used to say, don't touch the weights, it'll slow you down. You remember that kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely.
So they were pretty much taboo. And I didn't want to do that because I wanted to get more agile and faster. And I did play my last year, high school football, was a both ways guy. And then I went to college and played 4 years. And so I didn't...
So after being exposed to this at 11, how long did it take you to before you actually touched a barbell then?
I was 20. Now, I didn't feel as though I was exposed to it at 11. Mm-hmm. You know, I think it was just like a notion, mm-hmm. and then gone. You know, and it was gone. I mean gone. Until I was 20, and I met Dave Crockett over at Western Illinois, and I was playing football there. And I saw him, you know, and he was a big guy and lifting, and he said, you know, you should lift weights. And I said, no, I can't do that. I play football. And
how times have changed.
And he said, well, yeah, but this will make you stronger. I says, well, I need more size, you know, also. He says, this will make you bigger.
How much did you weigh at that point?
I was 178.
178. And what position did you play?
I was actually a middle guard. But remember, there was also a middle guard for Notre Dame at 190 who was All-American in those days.
So the guys were 30 or 40 pounds smaller in the same position today.
Sure. Our tackles were 240. Our guards were 210. You know, our center was maybe 200, 190, or, you know. Mm-hmm. And but I did play at 190 the next year after lifting, 195. And anyway, Dave took me downstairs at Western Illinois' gym, and he said, here, just press this. Press whatever you can. So I kept pressing, and I took
standing press?
Standing press. And I took my body weight, I took 180, and I pressed it for 10.
The first time you lifted a weight, you pressed 180 for 10.
Yeah, which was my body weight.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing a lot of push-ups all the time. I was a very calisthenic oriented guy. And then I saw Dave doing bench presses, and I looked at it and I said, that's a push-up upside down. You know, I said, I do push-ups, I'm pretty good at that. He says, no, you go over there, you do your presses. I says, let me just try that. And he was doing 240. So I took 240 and did it 5 times.
Wow.
First time, and I weighed, like I said, 178, 180 tops, you know.
So an incredible amount of, obviously you've had a lot of work up to this point other than the barbell, but that's still a fantastic debut from a strength standpoint.
Yeah. However, I think you have to realize that there's an awful lot of stress put on the body out in the football field, and, you know, and you're going to gain a lot of strength, your body's going to adapt, you know.
Okay.
So anyway, then that was it. From that point on, we trained, you know, and I was able to get stronger and bigger, as I said. In the following year, I was about 195. And that year, before I played my 4th year of college football, I worked out at the Oak Park Y, and by myself in the gym, I spotted myself and did a 400 bench before season started.
Wow.
And
so you were training at that point?
Yeah, that was, let's see, that was only a year. Not even a year. It was 10 months. In 10 months, I had done 400.
Yeah. Well, as you say, you're at the extreme right-hand side of the bell-shaped curve,
Yeah.
and you know, I think I'll say it's your Italian genes.
Sure it is. Sure. It's from the mountain regions, you know, Italy.
Yeah, well, I call it peasant genes, and if you look at the older people from Europe, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, they lasted, they were strong until very advanced ages, and they were just a strong breed of people.
My grandfather, too, yeah. Yeah, he was from Italy.
You were not only gifted, but you obviously trained very hard also.
Yeah, I believed in that. I believed in always pushing yourself to the nth degree. A lot of people that I noticed in the sport didn't do that. They more or less exercised. They did sets and reps and exercised. They didn't push all the way to the fullest like I did. Now, of course, I mean, many, many years later.
No, go ahead.
You know, but what I also noticed is that people who trained like I trained also have arthritis, you know, joint problems. But I am 72, and, you know, I did get arthritis earlier, of course. But if that were the case, if we were just to exercise and never to go to the fullest, push our body to the fullest, we'd have no Olympians, no Olympic champions, no world records. We wouldn't be able to do anything. We'd have no football players. You know, this is craziness. So you have to push yourself to attain these far-reaching goals. You just have to.
You know, I mean, this is you've hit upon a point that the difference a lot of times on accomplishment is simply the intensity, and the intensity with a single view of what you know, of where you want to go, etc. And I think that you've already talked about the limiting factor of desire.
Yeah.
You had the desire to go beyond what was really possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't think of it in terms like that. I just thought I have less time, and I can't waste time here. You know, I've got to get going as long as my body can do something. I've got to utilize that. I can't just say, you know, let's wait a while, you know, another several months or years or whatever.
Yeah.
No, I went all out.
Right.
And I knew I had to, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's what I did. I didn't waste any time. I pushed for, I mean, every week, every month, every year, I just kept pushing, you know. So that's how I attained things so early, you know, I think.
Well, I think it's obviously it's a integral part of your personality. You're probably that way on everything you do. You focus and you put in maximum effort to get out the maximum result. So after you did the 400-pound bench press with only 10 months worth of training, at that point there was no competitive powerlifting.
No. And I spotted myself on that 400. There was no one in the gym. Let's see. That's why, you know, when football was over, and I could have had a fifth year. I could have had, because I redshirted a year. But I said no to it because I wanted to lift. And what I did was, there was no powerlifting. So I entered an Olympic lifting contest, and at that time I was in Macomb, Illinois, Western. And there was a meet I discovered. It was called the Illinois-Iowa Championships and Mr. Illinois, Iowa. And let's see, this was 61, I think. Yeah, it was 61, and it was this spring. So I entered it, and I kept powerlifting, power bodybuilding, and Dave said, you know, you got a contest in 2 weeks. It's Olympic lifting. You've never done that. You should start trying that, you know. And I said, yeah, I'll try it a few times before I go. So I tried it a few times, and I entered the meet. Power clean 270, pressed it at 198, snatched 210, first time ever. And I couldn't clean much more than 270, so because I powered, I couldn't.
You weren't squat cleaning or split cleaning.
I wasn't doing any of that, no. So I just did that, and I won first place, you know, and in 198. And then I also entered. I was always doing that kind of stuff, where you entered this, the whole thing, you know. So I entered Mr. Illinois, Iowa, and I got second, you know. And I didn't know how to pose or anything, you know. So it was kind of ridiculous, but I thought, you know what, I think I have some ability in this.
You have a little talent there.
Yeah, in this area. So then I just went back. I went to Sayre Park. That summer there was the Sayre Park Open, was the Chicago Park District Open and Mr. Chicago Park District. I took second in that also. I entered the same thing. I took second to Fred Schutz, and I took second to Bob Guida. That was my first Central AAU meet. And again, I was green. I didn't know what I was doing. But again, power clean. But this time I upped everything. I did 275 and 275, you know. Mm-hmm. And I did, I think, 215 or 220, something like that in the snatch. Just once you up it a little bit, you know.
Well, that's in fact where Sayre Park is where I first met you, in that little makeshift weight room that, you know, when you were doing 440 on the bench, that was about all the weight in the room.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I can't remember. That you used the word makeshift, and yeah, makeshift was definitely a term for Sayre, but that little place did turn out a lot of champions.
Right. It just shows you about talent and desire.
Yeah, sure. It's not, you know, so much whether or not you've got chrome-plated barbell sets. It's whether or not you got chrome-plated muscles. You know, so
let's, you know, skip forward there. You entered the actually the first time I saw you on stage, I think, is the 64 Mr. America at Lane Tech High School. Wasn't that it?
Yeah, well, there was an awful lot of things happened before that.
Well, let's go back then.
Okay, let's see. I also started squatting and deadlifting. Of course, you had to, you know, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do the Olympic lifts. I wasn't agile enough, or I didn't bend. My body didn't bend very well. Mm-hmm. And I'm not so sure exactly why. If it was because I was powerlifting, I didn't like the feel of the folding up like an accordion. You know, I didn't like any of those feelings, but I liked the push and the power feeling. So I kind of stayed with that. And that is not quite what Olympic lifting is. You know, what Olympic lifting is the dynamic, speed, movement, explosive movement, and you just catch something. You throw it through there and catch it. You know, whoa, you know, it's not where you're in control of it every inch of the way and then it's finally a lockout.
Right.
See, and that's what I was accustomed to, and that's what I loved. I love that feeling. I didn't like throwing something up there and going and catching it, you know.
Well, I think you hit upon, you know, something that most people fall into a groove on, which is what feels right.
Yeah.
And what gives you pleasure. And eventually, you know, to me, the muscles and the act is because it's pleasurable. It gives us a reward that's beyond just lifting the weight. It's actually a feeling. It's an emotion.
Yeah. Well, you know, I also, that was roughly, I think, 1961 or 61, 62. And then, I don't know, I think I had entered a meet. I'd quit school, actually. I didn't want to say that, but I quit school because I wasn't really certain. I didn't want to play football anymore. I basically went to school for football, you know, and I just went and took all these courses, and I had physical education and English, and just about had a double major when I eventually graduated. But I quit school, I went to work, and I lifted, you know, and I was really happy with that. And I entered some meets. I entered the Missouri State Penitentiary meet, you know, went down there to Missouri and lifted there and won that, you know, and Olympic lifting. I wasn't an Olympic lifter, you know, I really wasn't, but it's all there was. So, and then I came back and I won other things. I won the Chicago Park District, you know, championships, and then I won the Mr. Chicago Park District. And in '62, I won the Junior Illinois, Mr. Junior Illinois, and '63 I won Mr. Illinois, and I kept entering those contests and Olympic lifting. And then in '63, '64, I went back to Western for my last shot. I had less than a year, but I took extra courses and everything, and I had to take practice teaching. So what I did is I figured the Mr. America is going to be in Chicago in '64. I said, you know what, that's my hometown, and I'm going to be in that contest. I'm going to spend all year bodybuilding, the heck with everything else, you know, whether it's power and Olympic and everything. So I just bodybuilded for 1 year, and I surprised myself at how good you can get when you just pretty much, you know, center in on one thing like that. And that's what I did. And all year was just bodybuilding. And of course, at the end of the year, I entered and won most muscular. Beat my friend Sergio, you know, which I've always, I held him to such high regard. Now, of course, he wasn't at his best, but, you know, who knows how many of us could have been better anyway. But I still took very much pride in that, you know. And I did take fourth in the contest. I didn't believe I should have. I believed I should have taken maybe second or third, but I never ever thought I should have taken first. I don't know why. Maybe because of the, I don't know, some kind of idea behind Mr. America, what it really stands for. I didn't see myself quite as that, but I did see myself as a gnarly, hard, you know, physical kind of being. So
when I saw you and when we trained at Sayre Park, I remember that even when you weren't training straight bodybuilding, you were in pretty lean, muscular shape. You were not somebody, a 198er that weighed 230.
Yeah, I know. No, well, that's right. I was 198 and I was lean. I don't know. I guess I did eat everything. Now that's what's strange. You know, it's not like I was, you know, oh geez, I got to stay away from pies, or I got to stay away from that fatting food or anything. No, I ate anything and everything constantly. It didn't matter. It was like a jet engine. You know, it just went out the rear.
In the last year, that you, yeah, I know, pun intended. The last year, then, when you really concentrated on bodybuilding, as you got closer to the contest, did you alter your diet, or you just continued to do what you did and came? I remember you. I mean, I remember you being on stage. You were very lean and very thick.
Never ever altered my diet ever in my life for any of it. Ever. I didn't do that. I didn't believe in it. No, never did.
And as a little aside, I remember you telling me, because we were talking about food, you explained to me why the Wimpy burger was the perfect meal.
Okay.
And he remembers. He says, well, you got the bun, you have some carbohydrate, and you got the lettuce, so you have your vegetables, and you have your meat and cheese for your protein. Sure. And it was the perfect meal for you, and it sounds like it worked.
Yeah, I did eat anything and everything. There's no doubt about it. And I didn't hold back. You know, of course, I got a lot larger many years later, you know, when I went into pure power. But that was, you know, after I was done with the OL, the Olympic lifting, and I was done with the bodybuilding, and I was even done, I won the Senior National Powerlifting Championship in 1965. Interesting, all of a sudden I got a letter through the mail from Grimmick and those guys at York. They said, we've entered you in the York, you know, Senior National Powerlifting Championships, the first official. So come, we've entered you. And
nice invitation.
Yeah, so I said, sure, you know, I'll be there. So I did go, and I did win. So I was the first official 198-pound, you know, national powerlifting champion. And then after that, I was kind of bouncing around. Like I said, my family and job and house and everything else, and so many other things involved my life, and I couldn't just pay attention to lifting. I just couldn't do that.
And after 1965, though, bodybuilding kind of went by the wayside, and powerlifting became your focus. And also, I'm going to guess that there probably has never been a most muscular America and a national powerlift champion both. So you fit into both.
Does the first place junior national Olympic mean anything or
no? Sure.
Okay. Well, you know, yeah, I don't know what to say about that. That's neither here nor there as far as I'm concerned. But I think what really matters is that I was bouncing around at the time, because I didn't, like I said, I had so many other important family issues going on. So I would just train, and in 1969 then, Bob Guida entered me. Before that, in 67, I wasn't even trained, nothing. Entered me, I bombed out, I was terrible. You know, Bob Guida said, oh, don't worry about it, you'll be fine. Yeah, well, thanks, Bob. You know, but I wasn't fine, you know. I didn't do well in either the bodybuilding or the power. So I figured, you know, I got to do this on my own. I can't just listen to other people. But in 69, they had it in Chicago again, the Mr. America. And I said, oh, geez, at DePaul University. I said, you know, maybe I could enter it. 3 months, I found out. I started to train 3 months, and I took fourth. And I think it was like second in most muscular and one best chest, you know. But anyway, that was 69. And then I pretty much sunk back into power. There was something that actually drew me to power again. It was up at Leaning Tower Y. There was a guy who everybody was talking about, and he said, oh, he's really strong and he's going to do this and that. But what I didn't know is that there was a pharmaceutical in the lining. And I wasn't aware of any of that yet. because I wasn't aware of that until 72. But I entered the contest, and I figured I'm going to really eat because I got to gain weight to be in his class. He was a heavyweight, and I didn't want to be a 98. I wanted to go against this guy. So I have 8 and 8 and 8, weighed 210, you know.
So at this point in powerlifting, anything over 198 was heavyweight.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah. Forgot to tell you that. It was heavyweight after 198. So I entered that, and he was maybe 235 or so. And anyway, we were pretty much tied going all the way into the deadlift. That's when they had the bench press first, then the squat, and then the deadlift. And I remember one of his guys saying, Seno is going to take 550 in the deadlift or something. And I heard him say, I'll follow him all the way to 560 or 565 or something. I don't remember the number. So I said, give me 560. I just went right under that number. And whatever that number...
That was your opening deadlift?
No, it wasn't my opening, but it was the last one. But I knew that he was probably not able to do it. And I did that and beat him. And that, remember, too, I had more years at this. I was more practiced at that kind of thing, you know, dealing with what another guy is taking and whether or not what you should take, etc., for your second or third time. But anyway, then I pretty much, that was in like 1970. After that, I pretty much sank back, and I didn't do much. And then in 72, that's when the pharmaceuticals came into being, and people would say, don't you know what's going on? And I said, no, what do you mean, uppers? I didn't know. And then I had a doctor talk to me about it. Started with the pituitary and, the nitrogen retention, the whole thing. And yes, I did start in 72. And in 6 weeks, I benched 500. Now, my bench had dropped because I had gotten older, and I was dropping. I knew it, and I wasn't going to be strong anymore. I mean, I was strong, but not as strong as I was as a young man. So I figured, do I want to go on like these other guys are going or doing, or do I want to just exercise and be in the background? And I guess I was too young yet. I was almost 32. Yeah, I guess I was about 32. So that's what I did, and 6 weeks later I did 500, and I just went from there. And I just kept gaining weight, getting stronger, and won another senior national championship in 73. And then I got second in 74 to John Cuck in a different weight class as I started to go up, and then I just piddled after that. But I did enter the seniors in 79. I bombed out.
At this point, the weight class was a 242?
Oh, they went to 220 and 242, yes. And I was in and it was in 220 I won the national championships in 73. In 242 I bombed out in 79. 1980 I got fourth, and by that time I was 41 or 42, and I said, that's it. I still trained as though there were no tomorrows, but I didn't really enter contests.
Well, that's still a really a long career from starting in 61 or so.
61 to 81.
61 to 81.
National competitive level.
Right.
National from 61 to 81. In 61, I did enter a national contest, and or was in 62. 61 or 62, I can't remember. But 81 was my last national level contest. So yeah, I was competing, and then I went on to compete at that strength for another 5 years. Then that was it. It was silly to go on. I was just destroying myself for nothing.
Okay. So you then, I'm going to say, started to train purely for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, now that you've, if you say 1981 was, the last of your real competitive career,
Mm-hmm.
we're looking at 30 years later here. So over most of those 30 years, did you train more like a bodybuilder, or how have you altered as the aging process has come on?
This is where I confuse Olympic lifters, bodybuilders, and power lifters. I pretty much would just do a warm-up set, and then I would peak to a heavier set, not a single. I mean, that's when I was really strong. I would peak to a single. But now, in this home style lifting, I would just go to a max set of, say, 15 to 25. And then I would come down and do a lighter set, maybe or two. That's it. And then I would do another exercise the next day.
So were the exercises then basically the 3 power lifts you did? That was the core of what you did?
Yeah, except I didn't do squatting anymore because I had titanium hips. See, I've had maybe almost a dozen surgeries in my life, and about 8 of those have been major. 4, 2 and 2 with the hips, both 2 each. One with the shoulder, one at the elbow, and I've also had the heart bypass. So I've had some majors, and I don't think it's, worth my while to keep pushing for no reason.
No, I think obviously at this point, it's both to train at the level where it's pleasurable and not painful.
Yeah, and also I have to weigh how much good it will do me. I would like that too.
Ratio.
Sure, yeah.
No question about it, and I'm in the same territory in a sense that I want to push hard enough to feel it, but not hard enough to damage it at this point.
Yeah.
But and of course, on top of all of the tremendously heavy lifting you did, you had 4 years of high school football and 4 years of college football, which was amazing that you made it through those 8 years with no knee damage.
Well, I have no medial cartilage now. I think I do have lateral cartilage, but of course my hips are just plastic and titanium.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my shoulders are fairly frozen. I mean, that's about as high as they go. And my elbows, I had an epicondylectomy, as you can see there, and the other one really needs it, but I'm loath to have it done.
Yeah. Well, you've been through plenty of cutting here,
Yeah.
and you know that when you do it, the success can also leave you with less range of motion.
Sure. Yeah, I'm aware of all those things, and again, like you say, the cost-benefit ratio. But yeah, it's a great career, and you miss it. You just do. You miss all of the people, all the friends that you made, and some of them stay on, some just through email, and a lot of them have moved away, and of course at this age a lot of them have passed away too. So I just anytime I get a chance, like Bill Pearl's in town and I'd like to see him, I'll go and see Bill.
Right. No, I agree. I've written editorials about it. It's all about the people, and as much fun as the weight lifting and bodybuilding and powerlifting is, it's really the camaraderie and the I'm going to call it the shared obsession that we have that makes for a lot of fun beyond just the workout.
Yeah, it makes us see into ourselves, and because we have these similar experiences, we see into ourselves similarly, and therefore that is a bond that creates a bond.
So now, Bill, you're you are training in your home gym, whatever it is, 2 or 3 days a week, or what are you doing?
Yeah. I hate to use the word training.
Well, we can't, with training, as I said yesterday on the phone, the problem is that the 50-pound dumbbells feel like the 150s.
Well, I don't use, because of the arthritis, I don't use free weights anymore. I just have a machine. I do benches and pulls, and it's the seated bench and a bench machine. And I will do that. And strangely enough, for both of those, I can still do a lot. Okay.
You're still strong in those positions.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I like to try myself and just to say, get a really strong guy and say, well, let's see what you can do, and then I'll go after you.
So you're still competitive.
I'll set him up, and I think he'd have a really tough time. Now, see, even though I can't totally lock out anymore because of my joints, whether it's the push or the pull, just moving it off the pins, I think what I take would be a trial for him. But again, I don't do that often now. I'm not going to do that often, because the more I do that, the more I'm going to destroy myself.
So your usual workout is obviously to work well within your limits, and more for the range of motion and the feel.
Yeah, I have to really toy with the range of motion, because when I go too far out or too far into the body, then my joints are really rolling and feeling it. But if I stay in short of that, in the middle, they're short strokes in the center, not at the end, not at either end, but in the center, then I could do those fine, because then all that weight is on the muscle.
Right, I understand. Especially the stretch position gets to be the one where it doesn't want to stretch.
Right, and that doesn't feel good, and then I suffer for a couple weeks at least, and then that interferes with your workouts.
But as the workouts are, and we use the word lightly here, because I know you don't agree that they are workouts in your mind, but there's a therapy involved both mentally and physically here that's still positive.
Yes, it's positive. I still like to feel that if I go a little heavier, even say I warm up and then after the warm-up, I do a heavy set, then I come back down to lighter sets. I feel that heavy set has done something for my total body. I feel like it has, all the way down to the visceral. It has pushed blood to the farthest or furthest points, that it could go. Whereas, sort of like, I guess, somebody who's jogging versus sprinting. Okay? And I see the sprint as, the guy's going to be way more winded, number one. He's going to get blood to probably more fibers than he will, I know he will, than jogging. So when somebody just exercises, he's jogging. And even though I do that, I still have to reach that ultimate somewhere in the workout, occasionally.
Okay. Well, I think that's we know that intensity is I'm going to say what builds, but I think that at this point, you're absolutely right about the blood flow, but I think it's probably more even an augmentation of your mind.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It does gratify me more, my mind more, to just know that this is still something I feel good doing and something I feel good about myself, and I'm able to do.
I had a short conversation with Bill Pearl a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about training at 80, 81, and he says, yes, I have pain, but if I didn't work out, I would have pain also, so I should continue to work out what I can.
Yeah, I do feel that there is a truism there. I know Bill's workouts are more along the line of, set after set of
Right.
moderate bodybuilding. And so he's going to get more constant blood flow and probably more therapeutic kinds of things than I will get. And mine will become more after the workout's over.
Okay. Well, I think number one, thank you for just an absolutely wonderful hour. And it kind of reaffirms, number one, your position within the sport of 20 years of national caliber competition. So, pleasure being here this morning, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much.
Okay. Take care. That was.
Head to www.goldenerabookworm.com for the biggest range of classic old-school bodybuilding books as ebooks, e-magazines such as Iron Man and Reg Park Journal, high-quality bodybuilding posters of the Golden Era stars, merchandise and classic gymwear featuring Steve Reeves, Marvin Eder, John Grimmick, Reg Park, and many other Golden Era stars. For those wishing to build a classic physique, lose fat, and build muscle, online training is also available. Collectibles such as rare autographed photos from the Golden Era stars are also available, and to collaborate, please get in touch. Now, if you're interested in learning more about Vince Gironda's approach to bodybuilding, his principles, and all these tips of wisdom that he has, I mean, there's so much stuff that probably hasn't been proven by science, and it will take science to prove or disprove Vince. But to be honest, these 3 books, I believe, which I call the Classic Physique Bundle, are the best books that Vince ever came out with. And they, of course, are the Wild Physique, the Master Series, and the Pro Series. Have a look at it this way. The Wild Physique, I believe, is like the ABCs of Vince Gironda's principles to bodybuilding. He teaches you the exercises and his principles. But how do you put them together? Well, the Master Series is a 14-month program of using all of these principles, all of the diets that Vince came out with, all of the exercises. And of course, the Pro Series was a book that he came out with later on, specially targeted for getting into competition. It's just these 3 books, as I call it, the Classic Physique Bundle, are Vince's best work, and available, of course, at www.goldenerabookworm.com.